What's going on, guys? Look, this is interesting. I really appreciate Star Wars Theory for going out and doing this, because there has been a lot of talk lately in regards to the wokeism that's going on in Star Wars, the wokeism that's going on in all of media right now. There's a lot of talk going on about it, and Star Wars Theory went out of his way and talked to a psychologist and a relationship expert. Her name is Sadia Khan, and he spoke with her about some of these claims or some of these issues that are going on, specifically with Star Wars. At one point, he questions, like, look, what do you think about all this when it comes to the way feminism is being pushed, or these ideals and agendas are being pushed? And she kind of answers it in such a way that is, in my opinion, there's no better way for somebody to answer it. She answers it perfectly. She highlights how it truly is destroying anything that it touches, specifically in the Western world. And I kind of want you to go ahead and listen to this here. We're not going to listen to the whole thing. I do encourage you all to go to Star Wars Theory's YouTube and check out the whole video, but I do want you to hear just this little bit here.
Yeah. What's your overall consensus when a female director wants to come in and reshape something and say, it's, plant that flag that, hey, I'm a woman, and hear me roar, here is my way of making this sort of franchise, which is already established, now something that's feminine dominant or female dominant, whatever it might be. And so,
see, and I like that he says that, because it's true. Star Wars was, and it's okay. It is okay for there to be a male dominant franchise. It's okay for there to be male dominant things, just as it's okay for there to be female dominant things. That's not a bad thing. And why is it that we have to have? Why is it that there are women? Why is it that there are people that have to come and plant a flag and say, oh, we now have to put feminism, we now have to put these woke ideals and agendas in these franchises? I like that he put it that way.
Instead of just a good story.
Yeah, I think what happens particularly in Western cultures, where women have it so easy, but they pretend they're not. What happens with women who generally have it quite easy, they enjoy victimhood, because that's the only way that they can feel part of other people's struggle.
And I love how she says they enjoy victimhood, because that truly is what the leftist ideals are in America right now. And it's kind of spreading across the world. It's all about victimhood. It's all about being the victim. If they're not the victim, if they're not the ones that are being persecuted or being pushed down, what is their worth? And that is the way that they look at everything when it comes to their lives. That's all it is they have to be the victims. I love that she says it like that, because that's what they are doing here. That is how they are pushing this. They have to push these feminist ideas, specifically with Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, or Chinoy, however you say her name. She is very big on pushing these feminist ideas. I know her comments that she made 8 years ago weren't specifically for Star Wars, but she has recently said and made comments about putting a female touch and swing and, putting their spin on Star Wars. So she's putting it in there.
Human beings feel alive is when they're a bit struggling, when they're going through something, where they've gone through a bit of trauma, they've gone through something, it makes them feel alive. What's happened with women in the Western world particularly is because there is no real oppression, but they want to be a victim so bad, because victimhood is just a way of kind of shortcutting sympathy. Everyone it's just shortcut entitlement. You get what you want without having to earn it, because you just happen to be a victim. So
I love that so much. Bravo, Sadia. I love how she says that. It is being the victim, because then people feel like they have to give you everything. They have to give you what you want because you're a victim. And that is what the left has been doing for so long, specifically in America. Like I said, it's spreading across the world right now. But that is what these victims, these quote unquote victims, are doing. That is what they try to do. And they have to highlight that they are being victimized. The fact that we sit here, we're noticing this, and that we're calling it out is just encouraging them. Unfortunately, it is emboldening them to say, see, look, we're the victim. See, look, we're the victim. When in reality, it's not the case. They're not the victims. It's just they refuse to see what we're actually saying. They refuse to see the truth, because they are so manipulated and so misguided that they have to believe that they are victims.
So what happens is they want to start finding places where they can be a victim and then transform it so that they can become a hero. So what they'll do is say, oh, we need more women in this particular sport. Nobody watches them. Nobody wants women in there, but they'll just say, stamp their authority so they can be a local hero. We need more women in Star Wars. No, we don't. Women don't even watch Star Wars. They don't even care about it. It's a man's little thing. Let them have it. But they want to be like...
Exactly. Let men have things. I get it. Years and years ago, decades ago, men had everything. I get it. Sure. Back when women were oppressed, what have you. That was decades, nearly 100 years ago. I get it. Times have changed. Men are allowed to have things. Women are allowed to have things. Women can have what they want, but that doesn't mean you have to take what the men have to get what you want. Does that make sense? Do you understand that?
Like, oh, there's such a deprivation. We got to be in it so they can be a mini hero. When you don't have anything outside of your gender as a way of being proud of yourself, you use your gender as a shortcut for entitlement and heroic stances. So I would just say, unfortunately, it is the norm in Western cultures to kind of over-identify with your gender and then over-identify with victimhood. It's a way of getting a shortcut to being a hero. And as a result, it's just there to design. And also what it does is keeps the power in the hands of the women. And whenever you redirect power entirely to women, just like if it was entirely to men, it creates an unhealthy society.
Creates an unhealthy society. And I want people to pay close attention to that, because while she's speaking about the feminist movement right here, she's talking about feminism and how the way that they handle everything's getting all out of whack and it's just screwing up society. You can take a look at that from any aspect of the woke agenda, from the leftist agendas, whether it's with their quote unquote, racial discrimination, their CRTs, their DEIs, all of that stuff, whether it's with the gender agenda that they have, their LGBTQ alphabet crowd, all of it, they push so hard, they manipulate everything so much that it takes society and throws it all out of whack. They're the ones causing all of the tension, all of the mishaps, all of the issues that there are in society with this, and saying, look, we're the victims. When it's them, when it is they are the ones that are causing the issues. Keep that in mind. And that's not to say that there aren't assholes on the other side, because there are. We all know that. We all know that. Don't come at me and say, oh, but what about this guy? Or what about this person? No, yes, there are assholes on both sides all the time. And I understand it. We understand that. Everybody understands that. But when you take a look at the grander picture, the greater picture of it, those who are saying that they are the self-righteous, who are truly the ones acting as victims, who aren't victims, they're the one causing the issues.
If the power is totally in men's hands, it would be unhealthy. If it's totally in women's hands, it's also unhealthy.
True.
But what we're doing
Yes.
is, I remember in an environment, I did a talk and it was a mainly Gen Z, a very young generation. I couldn't believe how feminine the men were. Everybody looked androgynous. I couldn't believe. And I just
Listen to this.
You would just take the normal 18-year-old boy, would have been considered as a really feminine man years and years ago. They would have seen him as like super feminine, or they would have just
gay. They would have considered him gay. I know she's trying to play it nice and honest here, but yes, 15, 20, 25 years ago, a very, very feminine man 15, 20 years ago would have been considered gay.
Just assumed he's homosexual. In this day and age, that's just how the men are come. So they've lost the masculinity. Yeah, and so what's happening is the culture is creating the very men women will not desire in the future.
You see that? They're emasculating men. They're making men in today's world. They're making men to a point where, and this is something that I've worried about for my children. First off, how can you talk to a woman with all of this Me Too movement that's going on, which is a completely different subject, but I worry for my boys. I remember growing up, getting your first kiss, holding your first hand with a girl, all of that stuff. it all comes naturally. It all happens. It's all fluid. But the way things happen now, I'm afraid for my boys. I'm afraid for them to experience that, because at any moment, a woman now just can twist the narrative and say, I don't want them to kiss me. I don't want them to hold my hands. I don't want them to touch me. And that's scary to me. That truly is a scary thing to me. But on the flip side, or not the flip side, but with that, they're taking what the typical male, what men are supposed to be, they're taking that and they're making men not men anymore. You look in the media, you see even what rappers used to be, these gangsters, these thugs wearing, chains and big pants, and now they're wearing these tight ass skinny jeans and, purple hair. Like they look like females most of the time now. Even rock stars, and that started back in the 80s. But they're feminine. You're making men more feminine. And like she said, it's going to get to the point where females just aren't going to feel attracted to men, which goes against, if you think about it, look, whether you're a godly person, whether you're a science person, when you take a look at the human species, one of the our purposes of being a species, of being on this planet, is for procreation. And if you take that away, if you take away the attractiveness, procreation is going to drop and our species is going to die off. You see, that all kind of builds, it all kind of falls together on what's going on. The leftist ideals and agendas are destroying the human species.
By doing this, you're going to create a bunch of men that you will no longer be sexually attracted to. And as a result, you'll be more miserable in the long run.
Very true.
Sadia, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
This interview, like I said, it was fantastic. It was an amazing interview. Please go check out Star Wars Theory's channel. Check out the entire interview. She is brilliant. There's a lot of people calling him out on this. I think it's a great interview. I think he did an amazing job because, look, this is something that is serious. And when you start to put things together, when you start to see what these ideals and these agendas are doing to movies, to television, to video games, to our children, you start to see how the pieces start to fall together, how it's destroying our way of life, how it's destroying the world, how it's taking the Bible, how it's taking God's word and destroying God's greatest creation. It's appalling. It's disturbing. I think we all need to take a stand and say enough is enough. And it's crazy to think that something like this is what's caused so much outrage. Something from Star Wars. It's pretty crazy to me. But I want to know your thoughts about this interview, what I have to say here. I want to know what you had to say, what you think about all this. It's nuts, it's crazy, but it is such an important topic to discuss and talk about, because we need to get on track as a human species, as a people. We need to get on track. We need to get away from these crazy ideals that are just destroying everything and get back on track. We got to get God back in our lives. We got to start reading the Bible more. We got to start following the word. That's what's going to help. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear what you have to say. Again, hit that like button, hit subscribe. We're growing. The channel's growing. I want to grow more. So keep watching, keep following, keep commenting. I'm loving it. With all that said, guys, I will catch you all later.